This is Caraline from Caraline's Adventure. We all face challenges in our lives. How do some people take those challenges and turn them into powerful results? Join me as we dig into a story on resilience, hope, and joy, and uncover lessons we can each use in our own lives. But before we start, please take a moment to show that 5-star rating button some love, and follow while you're there to be updated every time I release a new episode. Now, before we begin, a word of caution. On this podcast, we regularly discuss topics like sexual assault, suicide, and addiction, which may be disturbing to some. Please take care as you listen. And if you need support in the United States, reach out to the crisis text line at 741-741. All right. Y'all, today we are joined by Isaac. He is a 6-time boxing champion. He is a top 40 recording artist. He is a novelist. He's a public speaker. But more than that, he looks for ways to give back. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've got a fascinating story, and I can't wait for you to share it with us.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Or someone who can hit the ground running on anything. You're welcome.
So you knew about the acting that I've done?
Yeah, I saw that.
And you knew about the music that I made
Yes,
the top 40
the
across
top
the United
40.
States?
Right?
Yeah, I was number 21 in the country independently. Another song was number 6 in the country.
That's amazing. I mean, that's not a small thing if you think about it, because you've taken every venue that you've worked at, you've taken it and pushed to reach a high level of success in. That's intense. I'm looking for the right word for it, but that's intense because I know that it's not an accident. Success is never an accident. Just sheer determination to be like, you know what, we're going to make this happen regardless. And determination to own success on your own terms.
Thank you. I'm just looking for that. What is the name of what do you want me to call it?
So it's called Caraline's Adventure. And in fact, I've got a social media following about 900,000. And
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I've got the podcast. I've also got a pretty sizable Patreon presence. My social media following was the one that pushed me to start podcasting.
You're very passionate. No, I'm serious. Like you are like exuberating like light.
It's weird. I get that a lot. People say that a lot. And I don't.
It's powerful. Your eyes, like your passion. Yeah.
It's funny because I get a lot of people that come up to me randomly in the middle of like anywhere. Yeah, people will be like, wow, I was drawn to you. I'm very open about it. Like I came from a background of abusive parents. My father, you can say pot's not addictive. My father was a pot addict. And I lived with a highly abusive pot addict. My parents could have been abusive. They were abusive. Growing up in that world where you're told that you have no value and that you cannot be seen, that ingrained message inside myself. And so when people come up to me randomly and they're like, I saw you across the room and I had to come say hello, it's always surreal because it's in my mind, I'm still this little person that should be flying under the radar.
No, you're shining. You're shining huge.
Yeah,
I'm not just saying that. Listen, I've done hundreds of podcasts before. And I see different people and I say, okay, no, I have to bring this person up. Their energy has to be brought up.
Rock on.
I don't have to do that with you today. And I'm thankful for that. No, I'm really thankful for your life. I'm thankful that we got connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you find my show?
I have an assistant that does my bookings and people that align to the vision. And when you talk about resilience, actually, I think with yours, I found you. I think it was in the program. I remember seeing, I said, I'm supposed to connect with this woman right here. Because you had the word resilience.
Yes.
And I remember that.
Because everybody's going through their own shit. Everybody's got their own story. Yeah. And the question becomes, how do you take whatever challenges you're dealing with and make your own narrative out of it? How do you take it and build from it? My followers were the ones that pushed me to start podcasting because I never thought of myself as a podcaster. I never thought of myself as a social media influencer. I hate that term, but I had an accident back in 2012. I was hit by a car while walking, and it hit the reset button on my life. And I lost huge chunks of my memories. And so I started social media as a visual scrapbook where if something like that ever happened again, I had some place to go and recreate my memories from.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
thinking. It was like a daily dump of here's what's going on in my life. And it resonated.
Wow. You had to learn how to walk
I
again?
had to learn how to walk again. I was told I would never walk normally again.
There was a man by the name of Jacob. You ever read about Jacob?
No.
Jacob, he wrestled with God.
Huh.
You never heard that story?
Uh-uh.
He wrestled with an angel of God, and then the angel popped his joint out of place. All he wanted to do was to be blessed. All he wanted to do was to progress. And Jacob, when the angel, he said, I'm not letting you go. And he fought the angel until daybreak. It happened at night, and it was all the way till the daybreak came. And then the angel said, I'll let you go. And your name will no longer be called Jacob, it will be called Israel. You never heard that story? No. And we have the nation of Israel today.
That's fascinating. And I know that
Look up the story.
it's a story, but it's so true of so many of the challenges in life, which is
Mm.
you go into it and you fight through the darkness. And a
Mhm.
lot of times you're fighting blind, just based on
Yeah.
blind faith that there's something on the other end of this. A lot of people, when they lose sight of the end goal, you have two choices. You either quit and give up and stay wherever you were, or you just keep going on blind faith. I know that if I keep pushing, there is a way through this. And when you push through on that blind faith, that's when you come through to the light and the great story and the success. That's why I knew when I saw your submission, there's a bigger story behind this because you don't consistently succeed this many times in this many different ways without a big story behind it. So, what is that story?
Yeah. Okay. Caroline, everything that I've achieved thus far in life, every goal, I had alignment, which is horizontal alignment. And we can't forget the vertical alignment. We have to connect with the divine and we have to connect with people. So I've connected with God. And I'm going to tell you, when I've connected with God, what it does is He heals the brokenhearted. So when you're brokenhearted and the soul is broken, the spirit is perfect, but the soul at times we've been through stuff, we've been through disappointments, we've been through horrendous stuff in life, trials and tribulations. But then when you have the alignment vertically and you receive that healing, that inward healing, and then the soul begins to be healed, and then you have the people that are in your life, the horizontal alignment that pour into you, people that have poured into me, man, some incredible human beings that have poured into me. And I can't even accept when someone gives me credit for the things that I've accomplished, I throw it back at the people who have helped me because there's nothing I could do on my own. This is why every single day is a creative day, but it's a day of thankfulness. I believe that the emotional signature of gratitude is what? Being thankful.
It's amazing how when you shift the lens, you can't
Mm.
control what the events are that create your life. There, things are going to happen. But when you shift the lens, it completely changes the outcome. Like, I've been through some really dark times in life. The thing that I have come back to time and again is, okay, it is what it is. Like I can't change the fact that my parents are completely inept at this. I can't change
Right.
the fact that a lady was distracted and hit me while I was walking. I can't change those facts. I can change how I show up and what I do with the events that have landed in my lap. I love that you talk about the people in your life because I find that in these interviews, it's the people around us that help us in that shift and that are pulled, the right people are going to pull into our lives when we need them.
And I love how you use the example of external factors and things that we have control over and things we don't have control over, right? We have control of ourselves, even to a certain extent. But the fact that having an awareness that external factors, they play a part to a certain extent. We don't allow our environment to shape and mold us, though. We transform, we shift atmospheric climates wherever we go.
Yeah,
We've been
that is so
given
true.
that power. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world, the systems that drive the progress of humanity. And we're talking about unlimited power. Like when I first saw this podcast and I saw your face, I recognized the radiant vitality. The word radiant it speaks of strength and light and power, right? In order to be resilient, we have to have those components in our life active. Yes.
Absolutely. And it is a daily choice. I was going through a tough time probably about 8 months ago, and I saw something. I don't even remember where I saw it, but it resonated with me. And it said, if you wake up every single morning and think to yourself, I wonder what amazing thing is going to happen to me today, it
Mm,
shifts your thinking to look for the amazing things. It doesn't have to be huge things, it can
yes.
be a beautiful cloud, it can be small things, but it shifts what it is that you're looking for over and over again in life. I have those little perspective shifts happen, and every single time I'm like, that's right. I need to be looking
Mhm.
here.
That it's our personality, how we think, how we act, and how we feel. It affects us in so many ways. But we've been given that unlimited power we can tap into to be able to shift the way we think, the way we act, the way we feel. And when we shift the way we think and the way we act and the way that we feel, our personal reality begins to shift and begins to change. So the key to this is becoming a different person, literally becoming a different person. We have to step outside of where we are, outside the box of traditionalism, outside the box of my mom was like this, so that means I'm going to be like this. My dad was like this, so it means I'm. No, there are no excuses. There are no excuses. So what I love about life is the progress that we have the opportunity to progress. I'm going to tell you, my humble opinion, I don't believe that change makes us happy. I believe it's progress that makes us happy. Everything is changing. Seasons change so we can identify what time it is, right? We're growing old, we're shifting, we're changing. I believe that's the key factor that makes us happy is progress. And in order to have that progress, Caroline, we got to become somebody different. We got to become somebody
Yes.
different. We get to absorb what's going to make us different. Whatever is conducive to our destiny, this is what we take in. These ears, these eyes, this mouth, this is all connected to our destiny. The power of life and death is in the tongue.
So, what differentiates people who embrace that path versus those that get mired down in the day-to-day minutia and never break out of it?
I think it's DNA.
You
To be
think?
honest, I think it's spiritual DNA. I think it's part of who we are, but I also believe that DNA can be altered. Scientists have said for many years it cannot be
Okay.
altered, but I believe that there can be the alteration of DNA. You listen, a lion cannot survive in the swamps. You put an alligator in the swamps, and he's in his natural habitat. People are used to a certain habitat, they're used to living a certain way. But for a shift to take place, our DNA needs to be altered. I believe that's done through the divine. An eagle is a master in the air, but not even come close to being as powerful as a lion in the jungle. I believe that us as individuals, we have our own spiritual DNA, but our DNA can be altered when we find that hunger for alignment. We begin to execute, we begin to receive different information than the information that we've always been taught. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day, and
Yeah.
90% of those thoughts are from the day before. What are the chances of something happening new in our life without absorbing new information?
And it is fascinating. There's an old saying that the teacher appears when the student is ready. So many times, like I was in a tough spot and heard the message, and I don't remember where the message came from, but it shifted my daily thinking. So many times in life, when I'm at one of those critical moments of growth, some message or some person comes to shift at me to a different trajectory. I've always wondered, is it that I'm at a place where I'm receptive to them? And that's why I see them. And if I wasn't receptive, they would come. and pass right past me because I wasn't hearing the message?
Mm.
Or do you think the right messages come, they're like rocks in the path, and I can't go through this path any longer, and so it forces me off to a point where I hear the message?
Yeah, I believe that you have cultivated the art of flexibility. I believe that just on a path, there was a man by the name of Les Brown. I had the opportunity to sit at the feet of Les Brown, and he told me, he said, whatever you do, never limit your vision. And I took that in, and it runs in conjunction of what you're saying and how you live and how you see things. We have to be willing to be open for the blessing. We got to be willing to be open for us to prosper. We have to be willing. There was a man by the name of Paul Getter. He said to me, we were backstage before speaking. There was a sold out show. It was packed. And we were backstage. And before I went on, he said, open your hand. This is Paul Getter. I opened my hand and he grabbed some keys and he put the keys in my hand. And I said, okay, cool. He took the keys back. And then he said, close your hand. I closed my hand. He went to put the key in my hand, but my hand was closed and I couldn't receive what it was that was coming to me. So he used that illustration to say, even when we desire something, we have to stay open.
I
Yes, we
love
have to
that.
stay open.
I've heard a similar analogy when it comes to relationships.
Mhm.
Relationships are like water, they're constantly flowing.
Mm.
But if you hold on to a relationship like this, you can't hold
Mhm.
on to it. It's going to run right through your hands and it's going to disappear. If you
That's
hold
right.
relationships with an open hand and allow them to fall in and fill to whatever capacity you need to have filled, and then they may overflow, they may evaporate. You can't control any of that. All you
Mhm.
can do is remain open and receiving and allow relationships, taking that same analogy and applying it to what you said, it's true of anything: wealth, spirituality, love,
Yeah.
health. If you are so busy grasping at it, you can't hold on to it because it's all like water, it's all fluid, it's all part of a much greater thing than our ability to grab hold of anything and hold on to it. And you
That's right.
have to be in a receiving mindset to have any of that flow into your life and shift your trajectory.
We get to live in abundance. And when a person lives in lack, they want to hold on to everything. But when you live in abundance, freely you give, because
Yeah.
freely we've received. It's a reciprocal flow. It just comes right back,
And
you know.
it's so much more infinite than I think we realize. I was reading an article the other day. I've done a lot of research on the mother wound. So much of when I hit blocks, it always goes back to childhood. It's crazy and it's so stereotypical, but it is. And I was reading
Yeah.
something that talked about when you hit wealth blocks, lots of times it's a mother wound and it harkens back to some kind of message that your mother planted in your brain about a lack, the overall ability of money to flow into your life or your deserve level to receive that money. That simple awareness shifted my thinking. And suddenly all this extra money is pouring into my life from sources that I didn't even expect. It's funny how it's us that limits these things. It's not the fact that money or love or health or time are actually limited. It's our
Mhm.
perspective that limits them and our assumptions that if we can challenge these things that are comfortable,
Yeah.
we are so much more infinitely capable and infinitely deserving than we ever realize.
If we spend more time in a day just scrolling on the phone,
Mm.
we get hooked to the death scroll. Think about how much time could be used to read, to study. Even if you just take a pen and a pad. Listen, you go to YouTube, whatever avenue, there's so much information that we have today. There's really no excuse. I believe that we have to have knowledge, but not just knowledge. I don't believe that knowledge alone is power. No, it is specialized knowledge. It's knowledge that is conducive to what field that we're in, whatever is conducive to our destiny, what it is that we want to do. And I truly believe that. So we have to we get to absorb. We get to have new ways of thinking because the way that we think, it affects our choices. And our choices will definitely affect our behavior. You know what our behavior does? It creates all these different experiences. And in these experiences that we have, there's a thing called the emotion. Each of us, we have them. And that emotion is affected. And when the emotion and the experience is connected, powerful. So when you talk about money flowing, When you connect an experience with the emotional state of money flowing, I believe that we have to be thankful. We have to have gratitude. And as you mentioned before, open, freely open.
Well, and it's interesting what you said about 90% of your thoughts today are carried over from the day before. And so it speaks to the importance of sending your day out each day with thoughts of what it is that you want the next day to come.
Mhm.
Because if you're just rehashing those old thoughts anyway, make them be
Mhm.
the thoughts that you want them to be. Make sure that they're serving you. Instead of going to
Yeah.
bed thinking about, oh man, I said that stupid thing. I tripped as I was walking in front of a bunch of people. I made that mistake at work. I cut that guy off in traffic. I got mad at my kids. If that's the things that you focus on, that's what you're going to wake up and rehash the next day. Whereas if instead you're like, you know what? I'm so grateful for the fact that I've got enough to eat because I've been hungry. I'm so
Mhm.
glad that I've got hot water because I've been the dirty kid at school. I'm so glad that I have money to go on vacations and that I've got people in my life that love me and support me, and that I've got this cool platform where I get to go and have discussions with people that help me become my next best self.
Mhm.
When you focus on those things, you get more of what it is. And now that you've shared that, like, our thoughts from the day before play such a critical role in what we think the next day, is that the more cognizant we are of the thoughts that we're going to bed with, the more we start to shift that lens onto what it is that we want to see more of and that we want to draw more of to us.
That's right. You sound like you read my book, Think Fearlessly.
I haven't yet,
I,
but when Brenda brought your bio to me, I said, I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is a man that has succeeded a lot, which means that this is a man that number one has failed a lot as well. But number
Mhm.
two, there's something there that's driving him. There's something behind that level of success. That's not something that happens by accident. And so I'm curious, what is that?
Oh my goodness. As I mentioned before about that alignment, it's 100%. I'm for the expansion of the kingdom. I want people to see God's light. It says, let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So that is my why, is to help people to break through. I've had to learn how to break through myself through different realms. I had to learn how to break through myself. So I had to break through myself. There are components within me that needed to shift my ways of thinking, limiting behaviors and limiting ways of thinking that needed to shift in order to bring a transformative change in someone else's life. I had to learn how to change my life first. I was always told that I would never be anything in life. I grew up in a very poverty stricken area. I was so poor, I stood in the free cheese line. There are some days I took a shopping cart and rode it around as a kid looking for pop cans so that I could have something to eat. So I can connect to people that are struggling, right? Over time, through some people who poured into me and through my awareness of God, there was a shift in the trajectory of my life. All of a sudden, I began to see, wait a minute, these are realms. Now, I couldn't articulate it at the time the way I can articulate it now. But I understand that there's realms, the realms of sports, music, entertainment, science, wealth. There's so many different realms, and there's a gatekeeper to every realm. In order to enter into that realm, you must first look like you belong in that realm to bypass the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
There are certain principles that I've been taught and that I've learned throughout the years and how to navigate different realms. Who goes from boxing to music and then from music to film and then film to literature when you're told that you'll never be anything in life. And it's all by grace. It's by the grace of God. I'm excited about life because I want to help people. That's my intention, is to help people to break through. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. You've been trying really hard to fight for your dreams. And what happens is when you're fighting, you gotta have a coach. You cannot do it on your own. You need a coach. And I'm gonna tell you, in between rounds, there were times I didn't know what to do. And my coach told me, this is what you need to do. You need to move this way. You need to turn your shoulder this way. And he gave instruction. And guess what I did? When I was in the corner, I might have been beat up the last round, but I'm coming next round swinging. And that's what I love to do. I love to see people come out swinging. I love to see people win in life. We're supposed to win in life. And with that, not just win though, because there's some people who are winning, but they're miserable.
Yeah.
They don't have any joy. We need to have a joyous passion about what it is that we're doing. And we need to have an awareness and connect to what it is that our purpose that drives us, that pulls us. What is your why? When we discover our why.
And that is such a critical piece because until you know what your why is, it's
Yes.
easy to get distracted, lose sight of what you're really doing because distractions will come. Things are constantly going to pop up. And
Mm.
until you get a clear vision of what you're really here for and what you really want to accomplish, you're going to get bounced back and forth from thing to thing because cool things pop up and you're like, okay, neat.
We got to decide today, is my life going to be consistent with the quality of my spirit?
Oh,
I ask myself that question daily. What is my purpose for living? I know what my purpose is. And when you see someone who doesn't have a purpose in life, you'll see them, there's no joy, there's no peace. But when you have a purpose that is greater than yourself, because listen, I'll be honest, I've conquered it. I didn't want to live at one time. I was suicidal. I did not
yeah.
want to live because I had no purpose greater than myself. It
And
has to involve helping people.
when you hit a really tough period, one of the easiest ways to get through it is to look at how am I going to use this to help others? How am I going to take this and instead of staying mired in the crud, how do I shift this into something that's going to help someone else who's also struggling? And shifting the focus away from my personal struggle and shift it onto using that as a tool for something bigger.
Yeah, that reminds me of the antidote to depression. The antidote to depression is to help people and to give.
Oh,
Because when you ever notice when a person is depressed, I was diagnosed with manic depression at one time. I was on pills, heavy pills, drugged up. I didn't feel like I was living in this world, to be honest. And I was so drugged up I was manic.
yeah.
Another thing that helped me was help was part of the process of healing is giving of myself. Do you ever notice that when someone's depressed, they always talk about me? They always say what is happening with me, what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, what I'm going through. But if we can shift our thoughts to help someone else, I believe that's part of the healing process. Because
Absolutely.
selfish people are never happy people, only people who give. And I'm not trying to be, I want to still be compassionate towards people who are depressed because I can relate to that. You mentioned that. Why did you go through all that you go through? It's so that we're relatable. I've been through depression and I've conquered that lion. And it's only been because I've learned to give of myself. I've learned to give and I put myself in a position where I'm serving
Yes.
people. And I don't have time to think about the things that I'm not grateful about or the things that I'm going through, the trials or whatever it is that has disappointed me. I don't have time to think about that because I'm thinking about how could I make someone else happy? And that makes me happy.
It's funny if you've ever watched any of the clips that Shaq does. Shaquille O'Neal
Mm.
is amazing for the way that he gives back. Lots of people will catch him just doing random acts of kindness, and he's not doing it for the recognition. But if you look at his face, that is a man that is so in love with that moment and what he's doing. And it's amazing to see because it's very easy to focus on chasing whatever the next goal is and to focus on chasing success or chase it can be anything. It can be success, it can be sex, it can be love, it can be any of those things. When you focus on what you don't have enough of, you generate more of not having enough of that.
It's a program.
Yeah. And
It's
when
a
you
program of the world. What you're saying, totally agree. And I'm going to tell you something. We have the power to cultivate our own emotional state. Caroline's adventure, your giving of yourself. There are so many incredible people that are on your show. You had to set yourself up. You had to give of your time. You had to give of your finances. You had to give of yourself. And I can see it, the progress. Everything that's beautiful is right before you because you gave. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be the way we want it to be, But this is the beauty of progress. We can only have progress. We need to be challenged every single day. I appreciate being on your show because it has such a great purpose. When I seen the word resilience, because there's so many keys to resilience, when I saw that, I said, wow, this is an amazing show. So I just want to thank you today for having me on.
You made a great point about you have to give away the need to control what the process is and what the progress is. And you have to allow yourself to be carried by whatever the path is when you focus on that giving back. Thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story. It's fascinating to see what it is that you've accomplished. And I would imagine that you're just at the tip of the iceberg.
Every single day, I'm thankful for life. And I look at time as a gift, especially when you have a purpose. There's a momentum to life. We got to have a life that has momentum. And sometimes we may feel like we don't have the traction that we want. Don't give up. The only way that it won't happen is if you give up, made to give up.
One of the things that I like to ask at the end of every interview, which is, what do you think the secret to resilience is? And what do you think has been the gift that if you could give someone else who's in the depths of it, what's the gift that you would give them that would help them take that step towards resilience?
I would say humility.
Mm.
And then why would I say humility? Because humility is not putting ourselves down. Humility is admitting the truth and living by it. That means you recognize where you are. When it comes to resilience, there are some people who have their lives built upon fear, their choices, their decisions. So much of their life is built upon fear. But if we can be honest with ourselves and we can look at ourselves for who we are, we say, this is where I am, because in order to go where I want to go, I have to first recognize where I am. You ever go in an airplane and then the pilot says, I'm not sure where we are. I go to Mexico. We're going to Costa Rica. We're going to Jamaica. Listen, we need to know where we are. We need to know where we are. And that takes humility.
Yeah. And to take that analogy a step further, if you don't know where you're going and you're going to Costa Rica, but you planned for Antarctica, and so you've got a suitcase full of parkas and heavy boots, and you're going to Mexico, it's going to be a miserable trip.
Yeah,
The
you're
entire time you're going to be like, I'm
right.
hot. I'm lugging all this stuff. This
Yeah.
sucks. Whereas if you have a sense of where it is you're going and you can prepare for it better.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much. This has been fascinating.
Thank you for having me on, Caraline.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caroline's Adventure podcast. While you're here, subscribe to the show so you're the first to catch new episodes when they're released. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please leave a 5-star rating. For links to social media and more content, visit the description for this episode or go to carolinesadventure.com. That's Caraline with 2 A's, adventure.com.